Hi everybody and welcome back to Cozy Reviews! We have moved. We are in a temporary location, but I did finish reading the arc of The Prince Without Sorrow by Maitri Wijesakera, and I unfortunately was really hyped for this book. It is a epic fantasy, and I was sorely disappointed by it, unfortunately. It involves two main POVs. We have Shakti and Ashoka. Ashoka is a prince. He is the prince without sorrow because his name Ashoka means without sorrow. He has two older siblings and an evil tyrant of a dad emperor. And Shakti is a Mayakari, which is a type of witch, or it is a witch, but it's the word for witch in their area. And the emperor, Ashoka's dad, has been basically eradicating these witches from the world. Which, like, baseline, like, the base meat of the plot of Shakti utilizing Ashoka as a kind of an ally to overthrow the emperor was a really great base plot. A lot of the motivations of the characters, I was like, okay, I can get behind these characters and these journeys, but it just lacked the substance necessary for it to be truly meaningful, I think. It also, at times, felt a bit like fan fiction for Avatar: The Last Airbender. There were a lot of similarities, not full similarities, but we have Ashoka, who was very Aang-like because he is a pacifist. There was a lot of mentioning of Ashoka being a pacifist. And the two older siblings were very much a Zuko and Azula situation, where we have Zuko, who, I'm just going to call them a Zuko, Arush. Arush is in line for the throne, and he is very much like Zuko before his journey, where, you know, he's very much the Empire is the best thing in the world, etc. And then we have his sister, who I suddenly can't remember the name of. It's like Arya, because it's two A's, is very Azula coded. She is unstable. She does, like, go insane, but her trip into insanity, was so quick, it lacked the nuance that, like, Azula had in Avatar. So it was kind of like fan fiction of, like, what if Aang was also a sibling in the Fire Nation, is what this felt like. Yeah. And then we have Shakti, who we open with Shakti training. So she's learning weaponry, even though the Mayakari are supposed to be very also pacifist and never hurt anyone and stuff. And immediately the Emperor has found her aunt and two other women and has already murdered them. So we never even meet these characters. They're just immediately gone. So that lacked any kind of emotional connection because we only ever hear Shakti talk about them and never got to actually witness their bond or witness the dynamic that they had. So that lacked, for me, any emotional connection as the reader. And then we go on these journeys and stuff, and every opportunity to delve deeper into the why, like, there was just no why. It's like, why does the Emperor hate the Mayakari when the Mayakari are so important? Because there's rampaging nature spirits in the north. That sounds a lot like Avatar to me, and the Mayakari are the other ones who can bridge that gap and talk with them. So it doesn't necessarily make sense as to why there's this hatred for the Mayakari when they are, like, essential to the way of life. So it lacked that depth. I also didn't understand how in the world Ashoka was such a pacifist when he's in a land of people who value violence, with two older siblings, a father, and mom was kind of pacifying, but again, it was very much like the relationship that the Fire Nation, Fire Lord Ozai and his wife had. But it just, the way that Ashoka is, like, always going on about, it was an innocent, like they're hunting a deer. It was an innocent, it didn't need to die. I'm like, well, that's also food. So you can argue that all you want, but, like, they never had really great nuanced conversations about right and wrong and stuff, and it just was so surface level. Everybody was very surface level of things. I was trying to figure out who Raheel was. Raheel is Ashoka's bodyguard. And I don't know if this was like a Sokka shipping, but we do have some surprise queer characters, which I did enjoy. I thought that was well done. There's not a heavy romance or anything in these books. It is purely a fantasy, so it can be appealing to some, but for me, it really lacked. Like, it had the bones of a really good story, but it hadn't added the layers of meat and muscle and veins and things. It just really, really lacked the cohesiveness that could have made this such a great story. Because I was so hyped for this. It sounded so good. And then it just fell flat. It really, really fell flat to the point where I was kind of skimming by the end of it because I was so disappointed. But yeah, that's kind of my review of The Prince Without Sorrow. I was with some sorrow for reading this one. I only ended up giving it 2 stars just because it really lacked a lot. It could have been so much better if it had just been, given more time or allowance for a higher page count. I think maybe that was something with this, was it got cut down because I think it's only like 384 pages. And if we had let it go up another 100 or something just to give us some more meat, some more backstory, and some more conversations, because I thought Ashoka and Shakti were going to be hanging out a lot more in this, and they barely hang out. They're barely together. And just the way that the political maneuvers worked in this, they were just too cut and dry. Not even cut and dry. It was just kind of like, okay, because the emperor is unalived in this, and so Arush takes the throne, and each time his siblings come to him with stuff, it's expected that there's going to be this battle of wits and stuff, and it's not. Arush is just like, okay, go do that. Oh, you want that? Okay, you can have that. And there's no actual argumentation. There's no anything going on between these characters, and I'm just confused as to it. And like, Arya has one crazy dream of her dad, and it completely changes her entire psyche in one night. And I'm just like, okay, I think we lost it a bit. We lost the plot a bit here. So I was unfortunately incredibly disappointed with this one, but I read it. If that sounds interesting to you, check it out. But for me, it unfortunately was a miss.